The movie opens with three friends, Ray, Pete, and Toby, drinking in a bar. The trio is obsessed with science fiction movies, particularly time travel. They contemplate time travel while enjoying beers. After some time, Pete makes his way to the bathroom to pee. He sings while peeing, dances while washing his hands, and then exits the toilet. When he opens the door, he finds everyone dead on the floor and carnage all around him. There, he also discovers his future bearded self dead on the floor. He panics upon seeing this chaos and rushes back to the toilet. Realizing he drank a lot and that what he saw could be a hallucination, he exits the toilet and returns to the bar, where everything is back to normal. The scene then cuts from here to 6 hours in the past. Ray, dressed as an astronaut, speaks about time travel in a spacecraft floating somewhere in space. He talks to a group of kids about time travel, aliens, and how they can destroy mankind. Because he is a time travel nerd, he becomes way too excited and goes overboard, causing the children to weep in terror. When he notices the children weeping, he ends his overly animated lecture and triggers the alert button to quiet them down. The kids interpret it as a warning before an alien attack and begin to weep violently, with some even vomiting. Actually, Ray is not an astronaut at all, but rather a performer at a children's park where he plays the part of an astronaut and gives children a simulated view of space as well as facts about space. This isn't the first time the kids have started crying because of his statement about space, which is why the park's director becomes enraged and fires him from his job. At the park's exit, Pete and Toby are costumed in dinosaur suits and passing out food flyers to visitors. They are both frustrated with their current employment and are hunting for better opportunities. The two are bickering about who is accountable for their jobs here when they are approached by a devastated Ray, who tells them how he lost his job. The three then travel to a restaurant for lunch, where they discuss job opportunities for Ray. Later that day, the three of them go to watch a time travel movie. They all dislike the story and regard it as the worst time travel film they have ever seen. Toby claims that he can outperform Hollywood writers. He goes on to say that they should write a letter to Hollywood filmmakers to enhance their narrative, and if they can't, they should hire him. Toby shows them a diary and tells them that he has written many movie stories in it that he believes will be blockbusters. Pete takes the diary, and after reading it, they find the stories entertaining. While discussing movies, the trio goes to a pub to enjoy beers. There, they discuss various ideas for improving movies, and Toby notes everything in his diary. Toby tears the page and places it on the table after writing down everything they discussed. Pete mocks Toby and Ray for being so obsessed with time travel. In the meantime, their beverages have run out, so Ray goes to get some more. As Ray takes the drinks from the bar, he is hailed by a lovely girl named Cassie from behind. He approaches her and inquires as to how she knows him. Cassie responds with a baffling movement that she is a time travel agent. She goes on to say that she has come from 150 years in the future to repair some time leaks. When Ray shows signs of confusion, she explains to him that time leaks are random errors that enable ordinary individuals to move through different time zones. Ray dismisses her statements because he believes his friend has invited her to cheer him up after his job loss. He mocks her, saying that if she is a time traveler, she should go back in time and murder Hitler. Cassie responds that doing so violates the rules of time travel. She claims that killing someone from the past is a crime that is carried out by a gang of editors. According to her, editors kill people shortly after their most famous work. Cassie gives the examples of Leonardo da Vinci, who died shortly after completing the Mona Lisa painting, and some directors who were killed soon after releasing their great films. Ray still doesn't take her claims seriously and constantly mocks her. Cassie claims that her job is to fix time leaks and that she is here since she was notified of a time leak in this timeline. Ray inquires about his future. Cassie responds that his future will be totally changed. She adds that he will do something that will make him wealthy and renowned. She also adds that numerous books will be written about him in the future, and he will be remembered as Ray the Great. Ray is perplexed by the information regarding his future. He enjoys discussing science fiction and time travel with the girl. After a few more talks, Cassie leaves the bar upon realizing that Ray isn't taking her seriously at all. She offers him a parting kiss on the cheek, indicating that she has a crush on Ray. After that, Ray confronts his buddies and questions them about it, but they flatly deny making any arrangements for him. Ray tells them the full story, but they don't believe him and mock him, saying he's drunk too much and that's why he's having delusions. After a time, Pete leaves to use the toilet. After peeing, he returns to the pub, but when he opens the door, he finds everyone dead on the floor, including his future self with a beard on his face. In a panic, he rushes back into the toilet. He returns to the pub after a quick stay in the bathroom, and everything has returned to normal. Pete runs up to his companions and begins explaining everything. Pete adds that he believes the time leak Cassie was discussing with Ray is in the toilet. Hearing this, Toby and Ray decide to go to the toilet and check on themselves. They also take Pete along, who is already terrified. Ray begins inspecting each toilet but finds nothing peculiar. However, when he is about to check the last toilet, he gets distracted by Toby, and he does not properly check that last one. Pete wonders why nothing has occurred this time. He suggests that the two repeat his way of peeing in the hopes of traveling through time. The trio then sings and dances together oddly. An old man watches them doing so, but before he can say anything, Toby informs him that it is a research project. They did everything Pete said, but nothing happened. Fruitless, they decide to go to their table, only to be surprised to see their past selves from 30 minutes earlier there enjoying beers. They are all perplexed and hastily leave the area. Ray, the member of the trio with the most knowledge of time travel, advises them to avoid their previous selves. He mentions that confronting their past selves would create a dilemma. They also worry about what would happen if they return to the toilet, so they enter a cabinet and resolve to stay there till their past selves go to the toilet. While waiting for their past selves to go to the toilet, Ray realizes that since they're about 30 minutes in the past, Cassie will be in the pub. He peeks out of the cabinet, and just as Cassie is about to leave the pub after ending her conversation with the past Ray, the real Ray approaches her. He tells her that the time leak she's looking for is in the toilet, but Cassie doesn't trust him because he was constantly mocking her when she claimed to be a time traveler. Yet, when she goes outside, she returns inside with a completely new visage. Cassie informs Ray that she has been in her time zone for 6 months and has returned after concluding Ray was correct about the time leak in the toilet. Ray is perplexed as to how swiftly she returned from her time zone despite claiming to have spent 6 months there. The two have a pleasant talk while sitting alone on the lawn. Cassie then assures him that she has resolved everything and advises him to stay inside the cabinet with his buddies until their past selves leave for the toilet. Cassie then walks away, and Ray returns to the cabinet. The trio remains there till their former selves enter the toilet. But, due to their heavy beer consumption, they need to pee shortly, so they enter the ladies' bathroom to prevent any complications. When they return to the bar after peeing, they are astounded to realize that the pub has been wiped out completely. Everything is destroyed as if the bar had suffered a nuclear strike. Pete, scared, flees back into the women's restroom. While Ray and Toby are going to chase him, a future Pete appears from the men's restroom. He's filthy, bruised, and traumatized. He warns them right away not to enter the women's restroom. It is then revealed that there was another time leak in the women's toilet, which caused Pete to time travel and spend years in an unknown time zone. But for Toby and Ray, those years passed in a matter of seconds. Ray and Toby inquire about his whereabouts, but Pete does not provide a clear response, instead advising them to stock up on food and weapons in preparation for an upcoming tragedy. As they hear this, they begin to gather supplies. Furthermore, it is shown that not only the pub but the entire city is destroyed. After some time, the trio prepares with some weapons and dons new clothing. After they leave, they come across a big, worn-out painting of themselves on the wall. They are perplexed as to why their painting is on the wall. Ray recalls Cassie's prediction that he will be renowned in the future. To their shock, the costumes they are donning in the painting are the same as what they are wearing now. While pondering how they came to be so renowned, the three hear a suspicious noise and rush inside the pub. As soon as they walk in, they notice a big ant devouring a man ruthlessly and realize that this could be the source of the chaos. To protect themselves from the gigantic ant, the trio hurries back inside the men's toilet. Finally, Pete begins to explain where he was and the terrifying experiences he had while time traveling. In the meantime, their former selves appear out of nowhere and enter the toilet. As the trio notices them, they rush and hide in the last toilet. The past Ray begins examining the toilets for time leaks, but when he opens the last toilet, he is distracted by Toby and does not see his future self. Following this, their previous version begins to sing and dance weirdly in the hopes of traveling through time. When Pete witnesses them doing so, he decides to face his past self and urges him not to repeat that mistake. But Toby and Ray make him keep quiet in the toilet. After some bizarre dancing and singing, their previous versions exit the bathroom. The three exit the toilet as well, and a furious Pete marches out to confront his former self. Ray and Toby persuade him to stop because it will only make matters worse. But as they get outside, they are startled to see a large group of people having a party. After some evaluation, they discover that it is a themed party and that everyone is dressed like them, implying that this party is devoted to them following their fame. After some searching, the duo finds Pete. Before they can ponder everything happening, they come across a stunning painting of themselves. There, they observe that the paper lying on the table is quite prominent. They quickly identified it as the source of their notoriety. They ask each other whether any of them remembers what they wrote on that paper, but because they were quite drunk at that time, none of them can recall what they wrote. As they struggle to remember what was on that page, a lady named Millie approaches them. She presents herself as a time traveler, but the trio is unconvinced. She then mentions Cassie and informs the group that she is her boss. After hearing about Cassie, Ray believes she is a time traveler and asks for her assistance in returning to their normal time zone. She immediately agrees to assist them and instructs them to follow her. They pursue her to the men's restroom. As they exit the toilet, everything returns to normal. But, their past versions are still in the bar drinking beer, so they decide to wait until their past versions depart for the bathroom. Following the departure of their previous versions, the trio promptly returns to their previous spot and begins reading the piece of paper. The page includes a synopsis of the conversation that Ray and Cassie previously had regarding time travel as well as movie ideas for sci-fi and time travel films. Actually, Toby wrote it all when Ray was telling his friends about his conversation with Cassie. They are still unsure whether it was because of this that they became so well known. Yet they decide to leave the paper on the table to become wealthy and renowned in the future. Meanwhile, Ray notices Cassie, who has changed significantly and appears to have arrived from another time zone. She is overjoyed to see Ray after such a long time. They both start to secretly love each other but are hesitant to confess their feelings. Ray then tells her about his time travel adventure, but she doesn't believe him. Ray then mentions his meeting with Millie, which causes Cassie to become depressed, and discloses that Millie is an editor rather than a time traveler. She goes on to say that Millie is one of the deadliest in her group and has murdered several celebrities. Cassie urges Ray to be alert because she can launch an assault on him and his buddies at any time since they set up the framework for their stardom by leaving that page on the table. As soon as Ray learns this, he rushes inside to alert his friends. Ray tells Toby and Pete everything and says that Millie has just trapped them and may kill them at any time. Pete suggests fleeing, but Ray says it's pointless because Millie is a time traveler who can reach them no matter where they are. When they are about to give up hope, Ray advises that they burn the paper. He claims that if they burn the paper, they will not be popular in the future, and hence Millie will not pursue them. Ray's suggestion is supported by Pete, but Toby is against it since he does not want to continue living his current ordinary life. Toby makes every effort to persuade his friends not to burn the paper, but they do not listen. Sadly, the lighter fails to ignite just as Ray is about to burn the paper. He dashes to the counter for another lighter. Toby can see his future as a guy wearing a dinosaur costume and distributing food flyers, which he hates a lot. He is confident that if he manages to keep the paper safe, he can change his future. Enraged, he begins fighting with Pete for the paper. In the meantime, Millie appears out of nowhere. Ray and Cassie attempt to thwart her, but she effortlessly defeats them. While she is battling with them, Pete attempts to grasp the chance to burn the paper, but she seriously injures him in a couple of seconds. Seeing this, Toby realizes he is in the wrong and attempts to discard the paper. But his senses were too late, and Millie used her superpowers to seize the paper from him before destroying the place with an explosion. Millie vanishes after the explosion, leaving dead victims all over the pub and the floor drenched in blood. Yet, the paper is still on the table. After a brief breath hold, Ray abruptly opens his eyes and begins to move, revealing that he is still alive. Meanwhile, Pete's past self enters the pub from the toilet. When he sees the pandemonium, he goes back to the toilet, terrified. Ray uses all of his remaining power and attempts to tear the paper. While doing so, he unintentionally splashes beer over it, erasing the content written on it. Just then, everything returns to normal, and the guys are sitting in their original places, but they are still aware of the adventure they had just experienced. Because the cause of their renown has ended, they will not become famous in the future, which means Millie will not arrive to murder them. They are disappointed that they will not achieve fame and wealth, but they are relieved that they are still alive and together. Yet Ray is still upset because he is in love with Cassie and she is not with him. The trio praises each other for their courage as they proceed on their way back to their house. Unexpectedly, a portal opens as they approach a railway track, and Cassie exits it. She has evolved significantly but looks even more lovely. She approaches Ray, hugs him, and the two share a passionate kiss as if they had been dating for years. Cassie then invites Ray to accompany her in her adventures of fixing time leaks. Ray agrees without reservation, and he, along with his buddies Toby and Pete, enters the portal after Cassie, and here is where the film ends.
I hope you enjoyed the recap. If so, then give this video a thumbs up. And yes, if you want to be the first to know about my new videos, hit the subscribe button right now. It may seem worthless to you, but it is a huge motivator for me to keep going. I'll see you in my next video. Have fun and keep watching the Movie Explainer.